We are in the Netherlands, about an hour outside of Amsterdam at the De Valk brokerage. And we came here because they've got so many boats all parked right here at their marina that are of interest to us in our boat shopping journey. And the number one boat that brought us here is this classic 1965 FEADSHIP AKERBOOM. Because we thought, well, if we're gonna go for a monohull and we're gonna go for a motorboat, we're definitely going for something that looks really good. So some of you will recognize the FEADSHIP name and others of you will probably be clueless like I was, but I've learned a lot about steel hulls, which this is, since we've kind of gotten into this whole like expedition vessel shopping thing. And FEADSHIP has been around for a long time. I think 1940 something is when they originally started. Bit of a history before that as well, but they build super yachts. That's what we know them for today. But they built a few smaller vessels back in the day, like this one here. And I say small, 50 foot doesn't feel small, but in the world of yachts, it is a small yacht, especially in today's standards. You would get a lot more volume, but it sure would not look like this boat. She has got so much character, and that is what we love about her. So I'm gonna give you a quick tour, and then we're gonna kind of hash out our thoughts on whether or not we can really do this whole classic vintage boat thing, because caring for a 1965 vessel is a labor of love, and it is not necessarily a good financial decision or probably time-wise a great decision, but it's something you can be immensely proud of when you're working on it, and it's something worth maintaining. So starting at the bow, we are already getting a feel for all of the beautiful details on this boat. The ship's bell, the hatches, and then this is your ventilation for your main cabin. So you've got hatches that open up, which is going to give you a lot of natural light and air. This kind of slides back, almost like a sunroof vibes going on here. Coming to these front windows where the pilot house is. I just feel like everything about this, you just don't get this look with newer vessels. This is what you get from a classic 1965 boat. Oh, her name is the Swan, by the way, and she is a swan. She's beautiful. We've got double glazed windows so we don't get condensation on the inside. Learned that that's a very important thing on a steel boat or a wood boat. We've got nice, wide, safe walkways through here, and of course this beautiful wood railing and detailing. Beautiful also means a lot of varnishing and sanding in your life if you take this boat on, but that's also what adds so much of the character and charm to this vessel.
So one thing back here, when we were looking at the listing, we never noticed a tender, and we just assumed there was a spot to put it and a way to get it up. But now that we're here, we're realizing there's not. And I asked the broker, I said, well, why not? And he said, well, you have to realize that here in the Netherlands, rarely anybody stays on anchor. They don't really need a tender. So they're usually going at a marina, they're in the canals, maybe they're on a lake, so they rarely ever use a tender. So that's something that we would have to add, some sort of crane or hoisting mechanism to get a tender on this boat. Super solid teak decks here. We've got some storage here and access down there. And then up here, there's no shade, which I think could easily be added at some point. But these seats, while they're very classic looking, he said they do raise up really high, so you have a perfect view of the front of the boat. It has a beautiful wooden wheel, which is hydraulic, so it's very smooth to use. Simple gauges and instruments here. It does have, he said, the most powerful bow thrusters he's ever felt. Like they're from a big ship, so if you're up here on deck, when you use a bow thruster or a stern thruster, you better hold on. And it's really a very clean, beautiful boat. Let's go inside before we get this next band of rain.
Okay, hold up. Before we go checking out the interior, I need to take a minute to tell you about today's salty sponsor, Element, because all sailors know how hard it is to stay hydrated, and electrolyte drinks are not just for people who are athletes that are sweating buckets. Like, on the contrary, turns out that most of us humans struggle to stay hydrated. And the older you get, the harder it gets. And that is not marketing hype, like, that is fact, because I decided to do some research of my own, and I came across two really great articles, one on the NIH website and one on Science Direct, that both were chock full of data on how important hydration is and how bad dehydration is and how many complications dehydration can lead to, and even shockingly hospitalizations. And sadly, water is often just not enough, which is why we drink Element, because it is our daily dose of electrolytes without any artificial colorings or sugar or just other dodgy ingredients. And most importantly, it tastes good. Seriously, I have not tried a flavor that I do not like. Lemon squeezy. And if I had to go picking a favorite, I would say it would be a toss-up between the mango chili or the new lemonade salt, which originally was just a seasonal flavor, but they just announced that it is now officially here to stay, which makes me very happy, especially because it makes an excellent cocktail mixer. And speaking of mixers, if you are feeling creative, over on Element's website, they have a ton of recipes, including their own formula. And they say that they do that because they don't ever want price to be in the way, and they want to provide a path to hydration that doesn't include Element, which I feel like is a really big statement. So if you want to try it for yourself, don't fret over which flavor to choose, because if you use the link down in the description box below, or head over to drinkelement.com/gonewiththewynns, then they will give you a free sample pack so you can try them all out for yourself. Again, that is drinklmnt.com/gonewiththewynns. Okay, back to the boat tour. So considering that this is a 50-foot yacht from 1965, it has really tall ceilings. So while it doesn't have the volume maybe or the space or layout of a more modern 50-foot vessel, it feels bigger because of the height of these ceilings. And the broker said that he believes that's original. That wasn't something that they've added on or done. That's the way that they built it. And speaking of, this vessel was refit about 25 years ago. They pretty much stripped it all down, brought it all back, but they tried to keep it as close to original as possible. So considering that all of this is 25 years old, it clearly has been well kept. We've got a nice big seating area here for hanging out and lounging. We've got storage going on here, a couple more storage cabinets over here, and then of course, the almighty helm station. So when the weather is crap, much like today, you're gonna be navigating from inside here where you're nice and chill and protected, which is a big benefit of having a boat like this, right? The downside for this yacht for us is the fact that the instruments and stuff are all pretty outdated. They all function and work, but they haven't been brought up to speed because, well, around here you don't really need it. The water is very well charted. Plenty deep. I mean, they know exactly where they're going and what they're doing. This is all sort of inland waterway lake navigation. I mean, this is everybody's home turf, and that's what they use these boats for. So for us, we would need to update that, because also we'd be planning on taking this boat quite a bit further than the home territory of the Netherlands. But the interesting thing is that there is no wheel. It is just joystick steering. You've got your bow thrusters and your joystick and your engine throttles. And that's it. Such a different world for me. But nice comfy chair, great view, windows open on a beautiful day. Be nice and warm and toasty on a crap day, and you'd be real happy to be sitting here.
And speaking of breeze, there's a huge sunroof that opens up here. And then there's two doors, one on each side. So those open up, especially if you open up that forward hatch on a beautiful day, you're gonna get tons of breeze in here. The ceiling height and all that breeze and all this light, that would make it feel much bigger than it is. I'm really impressed. I'm liking it so far. I'm liking the look of it. I'm liking the feel of it. Will I like the work of it?
Welcome to the galley and the guest cabin. In here, we have got a nice size fridge, the freezer.
Ready for us.
I know, right? They know us already. I like where their priorities are at. So this is the refrigerator, and you might think that the little cabinet down below would be the freezer, but it is not. It is just a storage cabinet. The freezer, I'll have to show you in a little bit. But we do have an oven, got a double sink, induction cooking, and a decent amount of cabinet space realistically for this boat. So it's really not a bad sized galley. Is it as big as I would like it to be? I don't know, but it's definitely not small. So I feel like I could do this. And then we've got the dining table and the eating area, I suppose. You could always put in a bigger table up top and certainly feed more up there than you could here, which is going to be more of like just 4 people. But thing is, this boat is really only made for 4 people. And I would say 2 people most of the time with just occasional 2 guests. So I think there is sort of a running saying that is like, what? Drinks for 6, dinner for 4, sleeps 2, something along those lines. Every boat owner has probably some variation of that. And I feel like this, you can sleep 2 extra people in this boat, and it's not bad accommodations, but there's not a lot of storage room in here. If you're coming for a weekend, maybe a week. Yeah, you're packing light. Coming for a week, maybe 2. There wouldn't be a whole lot of extra room for you besides that. And the other caveat being, there's only 1 head. Wouldn't want more than 4 people using 1 head and 1 shower. That might get a bit busy, but it's not bad. And it is still a nice room. I think this is almost one of my favorites because of the little skylight. I think it would be very lovely sleeping in here at night on a nice evening where it's not going to rain.
This brings us to the engine room. Wow, these steps are super heavy duty. Okay.
Solid wood, baby, solid wood.
It is a watertight door, not this little wooden door, but there is a watertight door in here. The engine room space is actually not too bad. Way bigger than a sailboat, but not tall enough to stand up. But I have easy access to both of these engines. These are Ford Lehman engines. I've seen that listed out on many of the classic boats we've been looking at, so they must have been very popular back in the day. Supposedly, they are workhorses. They are reliable, and you can still get parts. I noticed like a little bit of rust and painting and cleaning and stuff that would need to be done.
Which is like any boat.
It's like any boat. I mean, we looked at boats that were 10 and 15 years old that had engine rooms that looked worse than this. So what are you gonna say, you know? There's a generator, heating and cooling throughout this boat. The hulls are well insulated, very thick, we were told. And it doesn't sound like the engines are very loud when underway. Unfortunately, we can't take this boat out and test it ourselves. That would be ready for a sea trial once we're ready to put on an offer. So, anyway, that's the engine room.
Okay, so moving on into the owner's cabin. In here, I do like that you still have a nice amount of space, still plenty of headroom. You can walk all the way around the bed, no big deal. There are a lot of cabinets in here. It's not a ton of storage for a full-time liveaboard, but it's also not bad. Like, I feel like this is maybe just on the edge of what I could do. Any less storage, it would be difficult.
Lots of light in there.
Oh yeah, I mean, the port lights, you're gonna have plenty of ventilation. Down in here, you've got plenty of light that comes in, and there's just a couple of puck lights on, but it's all natural light coming in here. It's not dark, and that's what I don't like about some yachts, is it's like you end up going down, in, and then it just feels dark, and you feel disconnected from everything else. And this, I don't feel that way at all. So it's got a really nice feel. This is the head. So you've got a very nice Tecma toilet in here, a good sized sink, and a freezer. Thought you weren't expecting that. Okay. Then on this side is the shower and the jacuzzi tub. Not kidding. You know it's a luxury yacht when you have a jacuzzi tub. Pretty swanky. There's also a washer dryer, which is in here on this side. And then of course, waterworks. There is a shower. Now I will say this is the only place that starts to become vertically challenged if you're much taller than somebody my size.
Which is
5'4.5".
Okay.
3/4, but I think I'm shrinking. So one thing I have not mentioned yet is the floors, and they really are quite lovely and in really good condition, as is so much of this boat, considering she is a 1965 boat and the refit was 25 years ago. She's hard not to gush about because it's just hard not to love the classic lines and the look of everything. There's a lot of nostalgia built in here, but there's also a reality to taking on this vessel. So let's talk about some of the work that will be involved.
When you buy a boat that's a classic, you feel proud of the way that you keep it, and you're going to want to invest a lot of time and love and sweat equity into making sure she continues on for another 70 whatever years. My math's not that great. Anyway, there are several things on this boat that just need to be taken care of now. And one of them you can see right behind me, hopefully very clearly. This window is still in perfect shape. They are double glazed is what they call them, but basically it's 2 panels and there's a gas in between. This one has started to lose that gas and it kind of fogs over, and there's a few windows on this boat that are fogged over. There's also, as you might expect, a few small leaks on this boat that need to be found and then fixed, and then everything needs to be varnished. I noticed one right here in the corner. And then, of course, like Nikki said, all the instruments need to be replaced if we want to go past the canals. Maybe we'd start here for a year and give ourselves 1 or 2 years in the canals to enjoy it before going somewhere crazy, or maybe we just outfit it and boom, go. But that's the decision we can make later. I think in general, the boat is in really great shape, but I do see lots of little things that need to be taken care of. Even one on the hull where the paint started to chip off, that one would have to be sanded back, inspected, and then repainted. It's not a big deal from what I've read. I've never done it personally, but it sounds like it's pretty straightforward.
Maintenance like many
Yeah,
maintenance.
any boat that we buy, new, used, classic, 10 years old, it's gonna take a lot of work. And what it boils down to is, what do we wanna live with? What do we feel proud to own? And what can we invest money-wise and time-wise? Those are the biggest questions we're asking ourselves right at this moment.
So now that we have had a little bit of time to digest all of this, we feel like this is a boat that was originally designed for offshore use. So it is clearly capable of doing exactly that. But there are 2 things that we feel like make this a beautiful mismatch for us, because we love the style and the idea of it all, but the space, if it were a 55 instead of a 50, it would be better suited for us, because we don't want it to just be the 2 of us. We want to be able to bring along family and friends, and if you max it out at the 4 adults on this vessel for any extended amount of time, I think that it is going to start to feel pretty tight.
Cramped, for sure.
Yeah, especially as full-time liveaboards.
And then the other thing that gives us pause is the fact that we want to go far. We want to go on some big adventures. And in order to do that on this boat, we'd have to do some modifications and definitely a lot of changes like we talked about in the video. So I don't think we're ready for that kind of thing. So if we were okay and content with cruising the the European waterways, then
it's already set up for that.
Exactly. We move on this boat and we go cruising right away.
But this is not the only vessel that we came to look at. So there are 2 others that we are going to show you next, and those are true explorer yachts that are capable of taking us just about anywhere. So thank you very much for watching, and we will see
you next Sunday.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Bye.